going on, everybody? Welcome into another edition of the Sunbelt Syndicate, the edition with Marv Dickens, the wrap, as we call it, right, Marv?
Yeah, the wrap, man, I know it's after dinner, but it gets me hungry.
That's good. Our branding is working. Now we just need a sandwich sponsor. So, I don't know. I had a couple that I would pick out if we could. So maybe
reach out to some people.
Well, yeah, we'll look that direction. With you from the first kick to the last pitch. Also, I've got a bunch of presenting sponsor stuff on tonight. The Don't Sleep Energy hat. Don't sleep makes you great and makes you stay awake, makes you do things like this when you are a little tired. Unfortunately, we are coming to you a day late. Marv and I each had a child down for the count yesterday. I think, Marv, yours was kind of in better position by the time the show would have started, right?
Yeah, he seems to be doing better today. But my wife and I went to a charity event in Richmond on Saturday, and we walked in the door yesterday around lunchtime. And within 10 minutes of being home, my oldest son just projectile vomits on the floor. It's like, probably should have stayed in Richmond. This isn't fun.
Oh, yeah, that's a nice little welcome home for you. I was in a similar position where I was out away from the house. I was coordinating with Marv saying, hey, yeah, I'm about to leave. We may just start a little bit later. We were going to go at 9 o'clock. I get home. It's about 8:40 something. Kind of prep to get downstairs, but I'm going to go say goodnight to my son. I realize my wife's still upstairs, which is kind of late. So I'm like, oh, what's going on? So, yeah, about 5 minutes after that, he gets sick. And then he gets sick almost on the hour for the next 2 hours. So for 3 hours straight, he was throwing up at least once an hour. Not a fun time. Obviously, those things come up and they happen. We appreciate everybody who's tuning in on a Monday instead of a Sunday because there's 2 Monday night football games on tonight. So, yeah, there's lots of football going on. Ben James already jumping in the comments for us. He says he's already got his question for the coaches show and Butch Jones on Thursday night. Thursday night, also the night Sunbelt action gets going again this week. And we have Sports Center going up on the campus of Georgia State. So that could be a little bit interesting there. So we'll see what happens as that transpires. But let's get into what happened last week to get everyone caught up to speed. And this one, as Marv and I were talking right before we jumped on live here, almost a week ago now, Arkansas State did win a Week 8 football game in the Sun Belt over South Alabama, 15-14. We'll wrap this one up kind of quickly because, again, I was talking to Marv, like TJ and I talked about this game because it was the next day when we were doing the preview show. So, obviously, pretty bad football in that first half. We've already kind of said that. But as you can see, the kicker wins it in a walk-off fashion for the Red Wolves. We know Ben James was pretty pumped about that one battle over there in the west side. But, it was an exciting finish. So at least there was that. Marv, did you stay awake or stay tuned in until the very end of that one?
Yeah, I watched it. Pretty boring game, to be completely honest.
Yep.
But South Alabama was up 14-3 going into the fourth quarter. I know their records. They've been on some close games this year. The records, I think they're 1-6 now. Before you learn to win, you kind of got to learn not to lose sometimes. And they just didn't do it. Both teams were atrocious on third down. I think they were 8 for 31 combined on third down, but 4 for 4 combined on fourth down. So maybe just go for it. Analytics tells you to do that. But, yeah, just kind of a boring game that, Jalen Raynor had not a bad game. He was 29 for 45 for 209 yards and ran for 76. But as TJ pointed out on our text thread, he was very surgical on that last drive to get them into field goal range to win the game. So better late, it's better to be good late than be good never. So they pull out the win. But, just a couple things that stuck out to me is that was a penalty-stricken game. I think I have written down here 25 total penalties for over 220 yards.
Yeah, it was bad.
Yeah, it was really bad. And that's kind of been a trend. I've seen a lot of penalties, especially when I go through the team stats for the games, do the reviews. Like, there's a lot of teams getting a lot of flags thrown.
Do you think – I'm actually going to take this away because this is just a bigger aspect, a bigger storyline. Do you think that aspect comes into play with the roster turnover being so great now? Like, do you think there's a little bit more undisciplined or a little less chemistry where there needs to be? Or you think it's just flat out guys are being kind of stupid?
I don't really know. I mean, my knee jerk reaction would be to say, like, even though you're on a new team, like, you know how to play football, you know the rules, you know what you can and
True.
can't play with, right? I don't think it's a culture thing of being undisciplined. I don't know if refs are just flag happy this year, but it just seems like you're seeing a lot in a lot of college football games, especially in the Sun Belt. So I can't put my finger on it, but it just seems excessive.
It does. Some of them I think you can just put on guys just being kind of silly, dumb plays after the whistle stuff is really, like you said, there's really no excuse for that. This isn't football's not new to you, even if
Yeah.
you're a freshman. Like you've been here, done that. Like let's clean it up and do better on that. So it's kind of interesting that has stuck around as much as it has. Which you're right. I mean, a lot of penalty ridden games thus far this year, specifically in the Sun Belt. I don't know if it's really a trend across college football, but maybe also. And we'll talk about some of these aspects. Some of these fouls that they're calling too, I'm like, I don't think that should have been a flag or was worthy of a flag, right?
Yeah, there's obvious stuff, right? Like offsides, late hits, after the whistle stuff, like you talked about. But they say there's holding on every play. Well, it seems like they're trying to call it on every play, and some pass interference stuff that some of the obvious stuff doesn't get called, and some of the I don't know, that looked kind of clean. It's just two guys fighting for the ball.
Right.
All that, like I said, it just seems excessive. Not sure why, but through the first 8 weeks of football, especially in the Sun Belt, just seems like there's been a lot of laundry on the field.
Yes, and that Tuesday night starting us off last week, that was the most I think I'd seen.
And that doesn't account for any decline penalties too, right? Those are just accepted penalties. Right. Yeah, 25 for 221 yards that's a lot.
Yeah, it's insane. That's so many. In one that could have had a lot of penalty flags thrown after the fact. Not so many in the. Well, I don't know. I think it was still a decently penalized game from what I can remember. Both teams had arguments to make about other non-calls or calls that went their way that they shouldn't have kind of got. So I don't really think the referees determined this one, right? No. I mean, App State had chances to keep the lead and take advantage, and they didn't. They would get stopped, and then they would take the points for a field goal a couple of times here throughout this game, lose to Coastal Carolina 45-37. But the best way I can say it is I spoke with an App State fan earlier today with Neil. I don't know if he'll jump on. App State, and that's not just in this game. They have yet to deliver the dagger at any point this season, right? Like they beat Lindenwood, FCS Lindenwood by what, like one score? Was it a one-score game or 10 points?
In a game that Stroman fumbles going into the end zone, which would have made it 21-0. In the first quarter, we feel like they're just going to run away with it. I'll say in the Georgia State game, they got it to 31-0. You say they didn't finish well, but they still won by 3 touchdowns. But man, that's when Barnes returned the punt for a touchdown, it kind of felt like, okay, if we can get a stop and score, like we could run away with this thing, but just could never get a stop. I mean, I told you before the show started, I didn't get to watch the second half of the game. I got to watch the first half, and I was kind of keeping track of it on my phone. Kind of felt like whoever had the football last was going to win because neither defense could stop the other offense. And App had their chances and just couldn't convert.
No, they definitely could not. Although, when people said, I saw a lot of the comments on the video that we posted, and maybe we'll play that now while we're up here. Let's see if I can do this. Switch ones here. This was our video that we took of the little. I mean, people say it wasn't a brawl, it wasn't a melee. I'm like, well,
there's fist flying in there.
I was gonna say it might not have been like really solid boxing style punches, but people were throwing hands towards each other, and if not for the coaches, this would have gotten out of hand very quickly. So yeah, I mean, I sat there and was recording as much as I could because I didn't know what was about to happen next. So to me, that's still kind of like a brawl in some sense. Nobody ended up really on the ground even, I don't think, in this. So, I mean, that's good, right? I haven't seen anything that either team is going to be fined for anything, but.
Yeah, there's not enough money in the Sun Belt to go around finding
Yeah.
people. You just gotta leave it alone. But I mean, listen, we saw this last year at the end of the Michigan Ohio State game, right? Like you get two conference rivals in a close game. You bring your flag out there and plant it. What do you expect, right? Like it's not going to end
Right.
well. They're going to stick up for their home field. They're going to stick up for their colors, and just never a great idea unless you want to get into a fight.
Yeah, and I think that was probably provoked on purpose. But and I wanted to shout out to Zach. He's been doing a ton of work on the backside of the website for basketball. We are going to get you up and running with basketball coverage very, very shortly. Him and I are going to be coordinating how we're going to begin to lay all that out here. But that's going to be exciting for the people that have those teams that are sitting at 1-6 and winless in the conference. Turn into basketball. Okay. You're just going to move on. We know what's going to happen. So now you got another sport to talk about here. Samari Collier is that guy. He's completely changed the offense, is what Zach says. Yeah. What's funny is not funny. He is the mold of almost exactly what we've seen work successfully a few times in this conference before, which is, okay, maybe not the most talented arm that we've seen. So let's have him run the ball more often. Let's have him, makes plays with his feet because he, doesn't feel comfortable enough in the offense to throw the ball as much or whatnot. I mean, JJ Cole, for instance, 27 of 41, not amazing, 278, 2 touchdowns. So he had a solid game, no turnovers to speak of, no interceptions, right? So that's good because we had a quarterback earlier this season, wasn't taking as good of care of the ball. And also some of that stuff was not really on him. Wide receivers knocking balls into the air to cause easy interceptions and, not catching the ball when they should have. But Collier, 12 of 19. So again, not throwing the ball 41 times like JJ Cole, just 19 times, but completed 12 of them. So when he did pass it, decently efficient there, right? Only 118 yards. So again, not blowing it out of the water. 1 touchdown. He did have 1 pick. If I can remember right, the pick really wasn't.
Well,
it
was a bad thing. They got the ball. The pick leads to points right before halftime, which was big because Coastal was going to get the ball after halftime. But like Zach is saying, his ability to run the ball. Like I said, didn't see the second half, but I can remember in the first half, if there was a stat for third downs converted by a rushing quarterback, I mean, he kept drives alive for them with his feet. But you don't have to throw the ball that many times when your team's going to run for 250 yards. They were controlling the clock on the ground. Yeah. Just App couldn't stop them, and App didn't get the run game going. It's kind of the second week in a row going back to Georgia State where Dominion didn't have the big game that he's had the first half of the season. Jakari Lewis is looking pretty good. But yeah, just could never really establish the ground game, had to throw the ball a lot, hits the 41 pass attempts, and just couldn't convert when it counted. I mean, like you said earlier, took field goals, in some first and goal situations where 7 would have been really big, and just couldn't get it done.
Yeah, and with Zach being Coastal student and a big time Chants fan, like I have to give that team and that fan base full credit. I will say it was by far, and this isn't a disrespectful thing, it's just a fact. It is the smallest crowd I've ever seen come up the mountain for a Coastal versus App State game. There's no doubt about it. I have pictures to show you what it looked like. It was amazingly barren. I saw more people a couple years ago when they came up on a Thursday night. That's why I'm like just shocked that was the outcome. Now, before this game, right? There's talk about coach on the hot seat, then not being the season they wanted. So I'm sure that's a large aspect of why it didn't happen. But I'll tell you what, you missed a beautiful weekend in Boone, North Carolina. Game or not, like that was just a great weather weekend to be there. And then obviously you came away with a victory. And let's just put it this way, Marv. I mean, I'll get your thoughts and see if they're separate from me, but this is 110% an absolute heated rivalry. If you don't take it that way, especially as App State players maybe took it, they will come in there with some extra chip on their shoulder and talk about the disrespect that's being shown to them. And they took full advantage of it. They never went away in this game. They kept pounding the rock down your throat. You couldn't stop them on defense. Offense scoring 37 points should have been able to win you the game. Again, in some ways, you say it's smart. Always take the points, right? So at the time, you're thinking, man, it would have been nice to have 7. At least we got the 3. But Coastal didn't, they just didn't need to, worry about that. Every time they got close to the end zone, they put it in there. So just a kind of I will say this too. I know App fans are saying like it's a terrible game, losing them, blah, blah, blah. As an outsider, if you looked at it from someone else's perspective, this was probably one of the best games in the summer. We had a couple of good ones.
Yeah, we had.
This was probably one of the best of the weekend too. So lots of reasons to have tuned into this one. The stuff after the fact, I've seen comments all over the place. What I'll say is these are college kids. There's stuff in the past thrown at them on the field. There's fingers being given to them. There's stuff being yelled at them from the stands. What do you expect them to do in a rivalry game? Now, is it silly to try and plant a flag on a turf field? Absolutely. That part's kind of silly and stupid. But he cared, and he wants to show you that he cares, and he wants to show you there's nothing you can do about it, right? So, but then luckily we had at least an App player say, no, not on our field, and then we saw just now what transpired in that regard. But Marv, what do you think about, Coastal becoming this big of a rival for App State now?
I can tell you as an App State fan, if you don't think Coastal is your rival, you better damn sure start second thinking that, because they've got your number. They don't like you, and they're disrespectful to you. So you better think of them as a rival. I know for a while it was, we beat them a whole bunch, but recent history, they've had our number. It's always a highly contested game. And the two teams just don't like each other. So, yeah, if you don't view them as a rival, you might want to change your opinion a little bit, because they do. And if you don't, they got the upper hand.
Yeah, this is without a doubt one. Now, I will say this, pre-game conference with Beck this week before this game happened said, we don't like them and they don't like us. Didn't really feel that energy or tenacity from Loggins on the App State side. And in full fairness, right, he hasn't experienced this in person, right? So he maybe didn't get it, didn't need to think that the team needed extra motivation after how they played against Georgia State, right? Like, I thought offense firing on all cylinders, defense looking good. Coastal has been hot and cold. So I thought, App State could run away with this, which in the first quarter early on looked like, boy, they go up 14-0 real quick. I was like, okay, this may be the game that I thought it was going to be, which is App State wins comfortably. Not to be the case. So, wake up. And also the younger generation, Marv, like us, it was Georgia Southern, right? Yeah, I'm not saying that one's dying down.
No, absolutely not. That'll always be the rival for App State in the Sun Belt. But it kind of reminds me of when Drinkwitz came in, and maybe it's the new head coach, right? Like, you're not fully embedded into the culture yet. But the one game Drinkwitz lost was against Georgia Southern. He said, I don't want to call it hate week. Let's call it love week, or some comment like that, and then you lose. If and once and that one doesn't fall on him. Maybe this falls on some of the alumni and fans. Oh, it's not a rivalry, and that's just being disrespectful to Coastal, right? It's kind of like trying to play big brother. Nah, it is. They beat us. Was this 3 times in a row now?
4 times in a row, 5 of the last 6.
Yeah. So hell, if anything, they could be the ones like, nah, it's not a rivalry. You got to win a couple to make that a rivalry, right? And in recent history, it hasn't been that way. So, hopefully.
And to be fair, the ones that they lost previously were mostly FCS games when Coastal and App were not on the same stratosphere.
Correct.
So,
correct.
In the games that have mattered more at the Group of 5 level in the Sun Belt Conference, Coastal has owned this rivalry, this series. So,
hopefully the boys will take some motivation. You know how this era of college football is. It'll be a complete different roster by the time we make it to Conway next year. But hopefully that video that you just showed will be shown in the week leading up to it, and say, hey, last time we played these guys, not only did they come in and beat us, but they disrespected our home field. Let's go down and get a little revenge.
Yeah. I saw some App people saying that App would never do something that disrespectful. Well, we did plant a plunger at the midfield of Georgia Southern. So, it wasn't as bad as a flag. It was more of like a comic comedic type of thing, like, oh, let's just be funny and do this.
The
But
goal plunger.
yes, App has done some things just like this. So if you're going to get too upset about this, these are kids trying to live in the moment, have fun, and get back at the people that have been able to yell whatever they want for the last, couple hours at them, and there's nothing they could do. Well, now they're doing it, and guess what? They didn't throw anything at anybody. So I hate it as an App fan at heart, but they did what they needed to do, and they have the right to do it when they get to that point. So yeah, we'll see what happens going further in this rivalry as it continues. One that Troy has done pretty well in as of late, but this rivalry, if you want to call this one a rivalry, I don't know if either team really thinks of it that way. But this one is really even in the all-time series, which was surprising when we looked at that before this game happened. But Troy does take down the Warhawks 37-14, kind of a close game early, and then the Trojans really turned it on there on the Warhawks. Marv, what were you seeing out of this game?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It was I think ULM was up 17-14 in the third quarter, and then Troy scores, or excuse me, they were down 17-14, and Troy scores the last 20 unanswered points. Not a bunch of yards, not a lot of offense, but we always say you can't win the game with a lot of turnovers. ULM turns the ball over 4 times. That's pretty much the story of the game. I mean, if you look at Troy's offensive stats, like Tucker Kilchrist, 13 of 21 for 223. They ran the ball for less than 100 yards. It wasn't a prolific offensive game, but once again, you make the other team turn the ball over 4 times and hold them less than 100 rushing yards, because the offensive stats were pretty darn similar. 4 turnover is going to kill you every single time.
Yeah, and yeah, they even had a couple of quarterbacks for the Warhawks go. Armenta's been the guy throughout the whole season, but Hunter Herring got in and went 3 for 4 with a touchdown in limited action. So, with the way the Warhawks season has gone, it will be interesting to see if that becomes more of a quarterback battle, or if they straight out make the switch and just kind of see what transpires with the new guy leading the team. We've seen what Armenta is, right? Like, he's not like the pocket quarterback who's going to, carve you up through the air. He's a running quarterback. I think Herring's pretty similar in that regard.
He didn't run well in this game. 5 rushes for negative 22 yards. Obviously, there's some sacks in there. But yeah, I mean, he threw the 2 picks. I don't know. I mean, maybe in your next game you give it a shot and just see what it is. Always, try to turn the season around and build for the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tay Meadows still doing very well for the Trojans. I mean, only 66 yards in this one and a touchdown. But again, you had some defense playing pretty well in this one. But he's still kind of the leader of the pack when it comes to rushing the ball and being that all-everything player, because he can catch it out of the backfield as well. Not really successful in that regard this past weekend, just 1 catch for 5 yards, but one player that you definitely want to watch out for. Again, Tucker Kilchrist too, like, just maybe not the prettiest of games, but 13 of 21, 223 and a touchdown, just getting it done at the quarterback position while they still possibly wait on Goose Crowder to come back. I know at this point, with Tucker doing what he's been doing and the Trojans having the record they have, like, I don't think you just take him out now at this point, right?
No, you'd hate to see someone lose their starting job by injury, right? But
yeah,
it happens time and time again. But no, 5-2 and kind of in the driver's seat in the West a little bit right now. I mean, they still got Southern Miss. That's good. That's going to come down to them too, in my opinion. But I think you'd have a hard time pulling them out. Once again, stats weren't phenomenal, 13 of 21, but when the other team gives the ball to you 4 times, when your defense is helping you like that, you don't have to put the game on your shoulders and go win it.
No, you don't. That will wrap it up for that West matchup, and then we'll get into the Royal rivalry.
Yeah,
it wasn't. It was
started,
right? But then it wasn't.
Yeah,
it started, and it was great. It was one of the better football games I've ever witnessed for the first half, to be honest with you.
It was very similar to the App State Coastal game. It was just like,
true,
whoever has the ball is going to score. If a defense can make a stop, they might end up winning the game. And then, second half, James Madison just came out and just whooped them.
Insanity. ODU after halftime did not score again. Not one single point. They had 27 At the half, it was 28-27 JMU. At the half, it was just a missed extra point that caused that not to be completely locked up going into the halftime marker. JMU, I believe, scored in the first possession out of the half. ODU, Colton Joseph hit Trey Brown in stride, and that would have, I think at that point, I guess JMU had gone up 2 scores, right? That would have got it back to a 1-score game and got ODU a score almost immediately in an answer. I mean, I think it was within 2 or 3 plays after the kickoff, after the Duke score to open up the second half. Now you've got this crazy frenetic pace of the first half continuing into the second, and you've got the game everybody wanted to see, right? I don't know. Trey Brown was the leading receiver, was making some great plays. I had one absolutely ridiculous catch. It just looked like he climbed a ladder to catch it. Honestly, it was ridiculous. 4 catches, 138 yards, 2 touchdowns. Should have been 3.
Yeah,
and it should have been probably.
Yeah, that was. JMU scores the last 42 points of the game unanswered, and just after that play, they stymied them. And man, it was the Alonzo Barnett show. 6 touchdowns, had 295 passing, 153 rushing. Offense racks up 424 yards, only 285 total for Old Dominion, and most of that came in the first 30 minutes. Just what a complete second half for James Madison. We talked last week. Coastal App, App wins the Coastal game. That they kind of are still in the race, and they're not out of it yet. They get to play, both of these teams, but JMU is definitely taking the front runner position for the East, and everybody else is just trying to keep up.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's going to be hard to keep up when they're playing like they did on Saturday afternoon there. G. Will's not too happy with some of the people over there at Old Dominion. Ben wants to know how they came up with some of the rivalry names for the match. I think this one's kind of on the teeth, right? You've got ODU with a crown literally in their logo. James Madison is the Dukes. So royalty, right? I mean, it's kind of, this one's pretty obvious. I do think there was a sponsor that helped kind of make this official back in 2022 to officially have this as a rivalry. As of note, since they've done that, ODU has struggled mightily to beat James Madison in almost any sport. So they're struggling here in this one. I think this is one, I mean, it looks silly now. I took ODU straight up to win this one. I thought after what had happened last week at Marshall, there's no way they have another game like that. And they didn't have a game like that necessarily, but they just couldn't overcome a really, really solid and good and pretty consistent James Madison defense, especially in that second half. Obviously, that first half, they allowed 27 points, so it's hard to say that. But you could see some of the plays were possibly there to be made. So just a really interesting game to see the outcome when you see what the halftime score was and just like kind of question what changed, what happened. So Town Bank, G. Will says, is the official sponsor of the Royal rivalry. And at the 2-minute timeout, ODU had 1 damn yard, is what G. Willis is saying. He's none too happy about this, and I think you
wouldn't be either.
Yeah,
that's once again, I mean, ODU turned the ball over 3 times, but yeah, that's 42 unanswered points. That's all you got to say.
Yeah, Beth Schaefer, gentlemen, this is a new name for us. That thank you, Beth, for joining the show. Dukes are named after the president of the university, Samuel Duke. So that's a pretty cool play on words there, and it kind of works that you could have a pretty cool mascot that you've got as well. And look at this guy. Who let this guy in? 3B is back together with Seth, Marv, and Dom all on the screen at the same time, man. Yeah, that's our boy Seth from the base. I got to sit by him in Marv's seat, so all of us were almost indirectly together this weekend as well.
Yeah, I was there in spirit.
There you go. We have a couple questions for you about amenities that they've taken away from you in those seats, by the way, Marv. Kind of question. You used to get some free ice cream stuff, and they don't give it to you for free anymore.
No, pay for it nowadays. I think that was they suckered you in with the free ice cream. That was my kid's favorite thing. They still got the free popcorn, which is that is quality popcorn. I'll give them credit for that. But I can remember the first couple of seasons we had those tickets, like opening weekend, you come in, it's a little bit warm, and man, my kids would make a beeline to that cooler and get those ice cream sandwiches, and they thought it was like the greatest thing on the face of the earth.
Yeah, it was nice. I would say that. What's not nice is the fact that they charge you $12 for like the weakest of food options, though, man.
Yeah, that's why you tailgate, man. Never walk in there hungry, so you're never disappointed.
Yeah, that was Seth's mistake. He walked in there hungry, and they went and got food immediately. And he was like, "What is this that I just paid $42 for?"
Yeah, they could definitely offer up better food options in there. But once again, I get my fill at tailgate and don't have to worry about it.
There you go. All right, enough of that because we already jumped off the game that was on screen, but we just had a little side conversation because it was a good time to bring it up since Seth was on here and paying attention at that point. All right, this now may be the best game of the weekend simply because it went to 2 overtimes. More offense, again, less defense. I think that was pretty consistently a storyline that you could look to in the Sun Belt this week. Is defense was optional. We had one game, and that's probably the next game where we had some of the better defenses actually putting together a pretty solid showing. But that was not necessarily the case in this Marshall Texas State game in Huntington, West Virginia. I took the herd straight up. I look like the smart guy in this one. They finally win it, 40-37. Marv, tell us what you're seeing in this one.
Well, Artie, if he's here, sorry, buddy. This is 2 consecutive overtime losses for Texas State. Their 3rd straight 1-possession loss in a row. When they kicked the 50-yard field goal to center the overtime, you just kind of felt like they had the momentum, right? Like this is their game to win. And trade touchdowns in the first overtime. Texas State settles for a field goal in the second, and then they just lose the game. So heartbreaking for them. I mean, 3 close losses in a row. Ball bounces, either way in any of those 3 games. Their record could be phenomenal, and we could be talking about them out west. But man, just tough loss for Texas State, and just a gutty win, right, for Marshall to stick in there and pull it out. When once again you go to overtime, you feel like the other team has all the momentum. And Brad Jackson for Texas State, 444 yards passing. I read it was the 2nd most all time in a single game for Texas State, and to needed every bit of it, obviously, but to come up short when your quarterback plays like that, just a hard way to lose a game. But kudos to Marshall. Everything that happened with them at the end of last year, losing a coach, losing half their players, to be playing pretty darn decent football right now. Beat ODU and then beat Texas State, and I think they found a quarterback. I think they got their guy now.
Yeah, I agree there. I think they found their guy. Ben saying Texas State thought it was their year, but it's not. I think they thought it was their year last year too. I thought it might be their year last year. I thought that was the year they might take advantage of what they're seeing. I mean, as much as some people thought they were going to go to the Pac-12 with this like great momentum, not in football, it doesn't appear.
Nope.
Which is weird. Again, they got the biggest O-line in college football. You thought that was going to pay some dividends. It's not all about the size and weight, right? It's about talent, strength, and all the intangibles that you can't measure up. I do want to give a shout out to Tyler Robles, the kicker from Texas State. Unfortunately for him, he was partly some of the reasons that they hadn't won some of the other games, right? Miss an extra point. Arkansas State comes down, score. All they got to do is kick an extra point to win the game at that point. Obviously, Robles couldn't have won the game, but he could have, helped it get to overtime. And then he has the chance to win the game the following week. He misses the field goal there. He was a perfect 3 for 3 on field goals this week and 4 for 4 on extra points. And we know that he's a talented kicker. So I just wanted to give him a shout out. He's not at all the reason that this game didn't go the Bobcats' way. He's kind of found his footing, so to speak, yet again. But like you said, Carlos Del Rio Wilson is the guy for the Marshall Thundering Herd. And,
277 passing, 88 rushing. Once again, 3 turnovers for Texas State in the game. But, man, 440 passing. They had 2 receivers go over 150 yards in the game. They can move the ball vertically. There's no doubt about that. But once again, 3 one-possession losses in a row, 2 in overtime. Just got to figure out how to win those close games. It definitely turns the season around. And we heard a lot of maybe their coaches leaving. I don't know about all that.
Yeah, I mean, if there hasn't been some paperwork done in the background now, you do have to wonder if someone feels the same way.
Yeah.
But, there's also the thing about, facilities, and as long as he can recruit talent, then, we'll be able to get the players that we really need. I will say this. Carlos Del Rio Wilson is only listed at 6'2", 215. Either someone didn't update that or like he just appears to be bigger than that, because I'm 6'2", and I'm probably 205 or so. And I'm like, there's no way I could stand beside that kid and be anywhere near his size. There's just no way. I mean, maybe it's the pads and the helmet and, the cleats. I don't know. But he looks like he's at least 6'4", 6'5", 230. Like that. He doesn't look small like my size, like my stature. So I have a hard time believing
it. The camera adds 10 pounds, bud.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, man. But, yeah, a great showing. I mean, Marshall did not have the start to the season. They lost to, an FBS newcomer early on this year in Missouri State, and it was just like, what's going on, guys? That's the game you win to rebound from what happened at Georgia. And it took longer than they thought and longer than they wanted, but they look to be rolling along pretty good now, 2-1 in the Sun Belt East, which puts them up there closer to JMU territory. So we'll see if they can continue their role. But again, this one, a double overtime thriller there in Huntington. They've seen some really good games the past 2 weeks there in Huntington, West Virginia. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, they haven't. Listen, you said they didn't get off to the start that, they wanted. I think everybody expected them to be quote unquote down this year, but maybe it just took a couple weeks to make everything gel. I mean, they're playing really good football right now.
Yeah. And I think if we have to look at it again, I got Del Rio Wilson, I don't think he was 100%. I think that's kind of why you saw the start to the season that you did see, where he kind of started it off a little bit and then didn't see much of the field for the next 2 or 3 weeks almost before he came back, and then obviously found his rhythm and is now looking like the highly rated recruit he once was when he was at Florida and then Syracuse before ending up here at Marshall. Speaking of Marshall still, they're never going to get away from this. Some of their teammates went down to Southern Miss, and the guy in the graphic here, Braylon Braxton, being one of, if not the most important piece beside Coach Charles Huff himself. And this rivalry is heated between Southern Miss and Louisiana. This one did go the Golden Eagles' way, 22-10, even though the Cajuns jumped out to a very early 7-0 lead. They just really couldn't take advantage. And Marv, tell them some more about this matchup.
No, I mean, there's really not a lot there. I mean, Braylon Braxton, not a phenomenal game, I would say, statistic-wise. 13 for 18 for 237. Like 40% of those came on one pass play to Mekhi Davis, a 98-yard touchdown pass. Louisiana ran the ball pretty well, 217 yards on the ground. You tell me we're going to rush for 200 yards. I'm like, all right, we're probably going to win the football game. 3 turnovers for the Cajuns, 2 for Southern Miss. But Louisiana's got to get better quarterback play. I think that's what it boils down to for them. Lunch Winfield, 12 for 21 for 112 yards and a pick. Walker Howard, 2 for 6 for 23 yards and a pick. Just not getting it done through the air, kind of one-dimensional, even though they did rack up the yards. But, Southern Miss is a good football team, and Louisiana's 2-5. That's not much more of a story there.
Yeah. Michael By saying, yes, Southern Marshall. Yeah, they're not going to get away from it. Maybe next year, people don't talk about it so much, but this year it's not going to be something that you can easily step away from. And Ben saying he can't wait to give Southern Miss a rough game on November 8th when Anderson returns to Jonesboro. He's the offensive play caller there. It's Southern Miss right now, I believe. And, Lunch Winfield came in and had an amazing game against the team we just talked about in Marshall. That's where he kind of made the name for himself. And once again, kind of a guy who typically beats you more with his feet than his arms. Although when he came in and did what he did against the Cajuns, that was both. I mean, he threw absolute dimes through the air, but he hasn't had as much success. To give him credit, the two defenses he's faced since that game against Louisiana have been James Madison and now Southern Miss. So you do have to also take that into account. This has not been any kind of walk in the park. This has only gotten more difficult for him to deal with. So not necessarily the easiest path there. Walker Howard does return this week, gets into the game later. Lunch was struggling, but as you said, in that limited action, does throw a pick.
Yeah, so, well, not great. Like, they just need better quarterback play. You're right. They have played two of the best defenses in the conference. But, you know, you want to lean on your run game, but you got to have a quarterback that can go win it for you. And right now they don't have it. Yeah.
It's they have what's possibly the guy, but again, they need everything to kind of be working together a little bit better. I mean, your leading receiver having only 45 yards through the air. That's tough. The top two leading receivers for Southern Miss both had quite a bit more than Jensen there for the Cajuns. I do want to say, when you talked about that Mekhi Davis touchdown pass, 98 yards, that was a third, I believe it was a 3rd and 14 where Braxton was almost out of the back of the end zone when he threw that pass. Not only incredible play, but crazy how that turns a game, right? Because if you make that play and you force them to punt and there's possible safety, great field position for the Cajuns. Obviously, there's 6 or 7 that's not on the board for the Golden Eagles as well. So, I mean, just a lot of different aspects that come from one big crazy play like that. So a lot of credit goes to those two because it was an absolute missile to get from him to Davis right in stride too. I mean, the guy didn't even have to break it. I mean, he was just gone. I mean, as soon as he caught it, you know he was going all the way. So incredible play between those two that really helped you think that this one might be the Golden Eagles game to take. But yeah, 22-10, they take it. And then the nightcap between the two Georgia teams, take the records, everything like that, throw it out the window because this one always is a toss-up no matter who's the better team coming in. Unfortunately for both teams here in this one, at the time, both were winless in the Sun Belt. Obviously now with Georgia Southern winning this one 41-24, they're now on the board in the conference. Georgia State still struggling to find their first one. What do you got in this one here, Marv?
Thought Georgia State was going to get their first one. They had the lead going into the fourth quarter and then get blanked and Georgia Southern scores 21 unanswered points in the fourth quarter. But, man, Cameron Brown, he's got to be the guy, right? I know when App played him, they experimented with a couple quarterbacks, 280 passing, 120 running, 2 total touchdowns. Just had a heck of a game. And then J.C. French, how about this? We know he can throw the ball, right? 210 yards and 3 touchdowns, but 85 yards on the ground? I don't think he's exactly known as a fleet-footed runner, but he was the other night. So, yeah, dueling quarterbacks. French wins it in the fourth quarter, but we talked about the penalties earlier. Georgia State had 15 penalties accepted on them, just themselves, for 120 yards. Let's see. They had 1 turnover, so it wasn't like it was crazy, but 15 penalties for 120 yards. That's just tough. But, yeah, I thought they had it going into the fourth quarter, and then, French took over.
Yeah, the power of Polson came alive, as they like to say down there. The students definitely showed out for this game. This is a game. Here, I'll tell you this one. Like this matchup here, right? Georgia Southern a lot of times like to say that this Georgia State thing isn't really their rival. App State's their rival. They don't care about this one. They should win it every year. But they haven't. Quite simply, they haven't won this game every year. There's been multiple times where they're quite a bit of a better team coming in, and then the Panthers surprise them. That's happened both at home and on the road. So it's a fun one to watch for that. Like you said, this score does not indicate how close this game was for the majority of the game. 21 unanswered there in the fourth quarter. I will say that first of those 21 points came on the very first play of that fourth quarter. So it's a little skewed, right? They did a lot of the work in the third quarter. Probably felt like they were going to go up, but technically again, all 21 unanswered points came there in the fourth quarter. Yeah, impressive by JC French. This is kind of the JC French I thought we'd see throughout the majority of the season, though, right? I mean, returning starter, Helton's offense, Georgia Southern was expected to be one of the best teams in the East. These are the types of performances in the end that I just thought we were going to see more of throughout the year. And then you talked about Cameron Brown as well. I mean, he was the only quarterback to play. That was the first time that they've gone with a single quarterback for Georgia State, maybe all season, I feel like, because, they had 2 early season matchups against SEC teams that did not go their way. So you saw both quarterbacks in that one. And I'm pretty sure you've seen 2 quarterbacks in every single game up until this point. Did we talk about that, or was maybe TJ about the keeping with the young guy and letting them learn through possibly games like this where you lose, but also maybe learning some stuff that is a benefit to him going forward as well over a guy like TJ Finley, who maybe has the veteran leadership and presence that you kind of want to, but how long is he going to be around?
Yeah, you and TJ might have talked about it, but we've kind of been alluding to it, kind of with the App State situation. If you've got a guy is going to be there, or hopefully, in today's world, hopefully is going to be there for multiple seasons, let them take their lumps now. Let them figure it out, on the field when it matters, and see if they can work it out. And I think Cameron Brown, there's no need to put another quarterback on the field right now, barring an injury, because he seems to have taken control of that offense. 400 total yards speaks for itself. But yeah, obviously the pressure for a coach to win right now is tremendous, right? Because you've already seen a handful of coaches get dismissed halfway through the year. So you got to win, but you also have to look to the future and say, hey, he might be young. It might not always be sharp, but if he's going to be our guy next year, assuming I'm here next year, I'd rather him have this experience, and we go ahead and get the question mark off the board now, so we've got something to look forward to next year. So that's my opinion. I don't get paid $1 million a year to coach football, so I could be wrong, but that's the way I would lean.
It'd be nice if we got paid that much to coach football, right?
Yeah, that wouldn't hurt my feelings at all.
Maybe you go from 1 golf cart to 2 if that were the case, something like that.
Yeah, definitely would do that.
Oh man, sorry, had a little fun with that. Oh, also, Jace has got a side-by-side, so that's cool up in the mountains. That's pretty.
Hey, if
pretty
you
awesome.
want a golf cart, I know a guy that's got one for sale.
Are you selling one?
Yeah.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, it was the worst purchase we've ever made.
I thought you said you use it around the neighborhood and stuff.
Yeah, once the allure of something new wore off, it collects my kids' baseball bags more than it does anything else.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have the money for that. I wish I did. That would be cool. I don't really have the need for it over here either, but we'll see. Maybe someday I'll make enough money to own a golf cart. That'd be cool. I'd like to be able to say I own one, even if I don't use it. There you go, Marv. You just keep it so that you can, say you have one.
It takes up too much space in the garage, buddy. It's got to go.
Is it a golf cart in there or one of your cars kind of situation?
Well, in full transparency, my garage has pretty much been turned into a batting cage at this point.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So where it sits I could take the top off my Jeep and lay it in there. But instead, that neon thing just sits there on the charger begging for someone to drive it, and it never happens.
Oh, man. All right. Well, we'll leave you alone with that. Back to the football talk there. Ben is saying Saturday in Jonesboro will be interesting as it's homecoming for A-State, but it'll possibly be a rain game. Those two never mix well, right? You want homecomings to be like the best weather you've ever had. Everybody wants to be back on campus partying and tailgating and seeing people they haven't seen in forever. So that would be disappointing if it ends up being that. They do play Georgia Southern. So not going to be easy after what we saw transpire at the end of that one. Again, we start Thursday night. South Alabama, Georgia State in Atlanta. Sports Center will be there from, I think, 2 to 3, if I saw right. So if you are working and you want to check out what's going to transpire, we've had some stuff with, I think Tim Beck chugged a beer the other year at Sports Center before the game at Coastal. So, things can happen that are exciting and cool to watch, regardless of the teams involved but it'll be South Alabama, Georgia State, getting us going. App State, Old Dominion matchup on ESPNU, game that was elevated, I think, a week or two ago before everything kind of transpired. We're probably kind of regretting that decision now.
You see the spread on that game?
I do right now. 13.5 points for the Monarchs.
Whew.
I don't know if I trust either team. I don't know. I don't know. I have no idea.
I think the over-under 63 is intriguing. I think the people are probably looking and saying App State can't stop a dual-threat quarterback, and Old Dominion's got this guy named Colton Joseph. So they're going to have their hands full, and we saw what Old Dominion's defense gave up last week. So, yeah, that's an interesting game, just kind of looking through there. If anybody wants to keep up with James Madison with Marshall having the bye this week, you lose that game, you can pretty much write off your Eastern Conference championship hope.
Yeah, absolutely. And to note, like we just said, for the first time since week 2, last week, all 7 teams from each side, all 14 together, played. That is not the case this week, as Marv already mentioned. There's at least
JMU and Marshall are off.
Yeah, and there's a couple buys in some regard, if you want to look at it that way, because of how quickly is there the following this week. There's like a Tuesday game again, right? Something like that, Tuesday or Wednesday.
Let me take a really quick look.
While you do that, ULM plays Southern Miss, as we talked about because of James' comments. Georgia Southern matches up with Arkansas State in Jonesboro, and then Louisiana travels to Troy, Alabama to take on the Trojans. So that one will be one that I definitely have my eye on. That is the 2 nightcaps, actually, because the Red Wolves and Eagles game at 7:00, and then the Cajuns Trojans also at 7:00. A nice little split, though. You got the Thursday game, a noon game, 3:30 game, and then 2 at 7:00. Very manageable for us to watch and enjoy from home, for sure, for those of us that will.
To follow up on that real quick, the following week we get 2 midweek games, or 2 weekday games. Tuesday, James Madison at Texas State, and then Thursday, Marshall Coastal, which is going to be an underrated big game for the East.
Man, I'm trying to get to that. I'll see if I can make it happen. I want to see that one in person. Yes. Trojan Joe joining the podcast. He's laughing, saying, love that those idiots from Mobile get to lose bowl eligibility in front of the nation. Troy boys, always bringing the heat, always bringing the fire. And we love Trojan Joe. We'll definitely have him on here soon. We got to do something. We didn't do stuff with people all before the season. We need to do like a round table at some point and get all these other podcasts on and have a good time. I can't get them all on at some time. We'd have to do like the East and then the West or something like that to
that'd be
split it up. But that's going to wrap it up for us, I think. Marv, unless you got any final comments, opinions, you talk about politics and religion, whatever you want to open it up to.
Don't go planting flags on other people's fields unless you want to get in a fist fight.
Yeah. You might want to think about that. But like you said, hopefully next year they bring the juice, they bring the energy, and for us App State fans, they can get back on the board in the winning ways. But Don't Sleep Energy, thank you. Phenom Elite, go check them out. And from Marv and I here at Sunbelt Syndicate, we'll see you guys for Wednesday's preview. See you later.
See ya.